The original version of Part 3 got too long, so we trimmed it to include just the opening demo and closing remarks about pros and cons, and moved all the middle bits with gory details, labeled here as items B through H, into this appendix. Okay, we're starting with a clean Ableton Live 11 Lite, as you can see here, and I'm just going to quickly go through my settings so you can compare with what you've got. Record quantization in the edit menu I've got turned off. You have to learn about quantization through the many videos that are available on YouTube and so on. It keeps timing very precise. I'm not going to use it at the moment. And under options, preferences, let's look at the audio. The device is set to be Focusrite, which gives us our audio interface, and we don't worry about the latency and so on. There are all sorts of fine tunings you can do on the record settings. The main thing of note is we've set exclusive, ARM, and solo, and again you have to learn about these separately, but I'll just let you look at the settings I've got here. They're pretty much the default settings. The other things of note are I'm going to turn on this metronome. We just use it briefly at the beginning, and I'm going to set it to count in 1 bar. So we're going to get a few clicks to keep in time with 120 beats per minute that we've got set. That's another default setting. And we've set the global quantization is set to 1 bar. That's explained in part 2. Here's all the tracks that come up by default. We don't use this reverb and delay, so I'm going to delete them. We're only doing some simple stuff at the moment. We delete those. But what we do need is some extra MIDI tracks. Default is 2 MIDI tracks and 2 audio tracks, but I'm going to add another one. I can right click over here, insert MIDI track, and I do another one here, right click, insert MIDI track, and actually I'm going to just click and drag this over to the left, so we have all the first 4 MIDI tracks together. We have 4 MIDI tracks and 2 audio tracks. For reasons that will be obvious as the demo unfolds. Basically, we have 3 MIDI tracks are dedicated to drum, bass, and the brass, the trumpets that you heard in part 2, and the 2 audio tracks are dedicated to the electric mandolin, and I'll show you how shortly. The leftmost MIDI track, I'm going to set up my own click track. I don't like the default metronome, and in particular this count in. It's brilliant for certain things, but for doing live performances, it can get in the way. So I do my own that I then disable, and I'll show you how right now. I'm going to add some drums, and by default, Ableton comes with all kinds of fantastic samples. You can click on these and you get a little preview and so on. Let's just stop this. What I do is I've used a couple of professionally recorded tracks. One called Latin Percussion. I had to pay for these, but I love them, so I'm going to use those. Look at some clips. I mean, there's just some fantastic stuff. We just look at these Afro-Cuban ones. You can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard. Scroll down, etc. There's hundreds of them, but I like this one. So I'm just going to drag over this clip over here for my, what I'm going to call my click track, because I'm only going to use a few of the drums. I'm going to right click and rename this to be click track. Click track. That's okay. That's just what I want to call it. I'm going to reuse these also for the actual drumming in the background, a sort of fancy version. I'm going to take some of the professionally recorded clips. You can hear this if I play it. I click on here, you can also see it. Lots of stuff going on. Stop this at the moment. I'm going to add the MIDI tracks for the bass guitar and the trumpets. Let's see, MIDI tracks for the bass guitar. I can take one of the built-in ones. We got instruments over here, and we have an instrument rack, bass, all kinds of examples. There's a basic electric bass. I like that one. So I'm just going to drag this over to the top here. This is going to be my electric bass. And for the trumpets, I can use the brass. There's all kinds of nice brass ones here. Different kinds of brass. I'm going to take a professionally recorded one over here, orchestral brass it's called. It's just a pack I got. There's a couple of sounds. Here we go. Trumpet solo is one I liked. So we're going to drag that over to the fourth track. And what's nice about these is once you've got them, then on your keyboard you can play trumpets. If I go up an octave, I can play high trumpets. Okay, so I'm going to use those. Now, the audio comes from external input, happens to be on channel 2. Okay, channel 2 is where my Focusrite audio interface comes out. This channel, which I'm going to rename to be my direct input. Okay, that electric guitars and all sorts of things, whatever you're plugging in is going through my audio interface. And then I can output from this to another one that I'm going to call, let's rename this, and I'm going to call it, but this is really channel 6 by now. I'm going to call it, this is my mandolin, but I'm going to call it mandolin 1 because I could create new tracks and do the same thing. The key thing is that this gets its audio from with the channel I've called DI, the channel immediately to the left, or the track immediately to the left. Call it DI, okay? This is the one I'm going to listen to as we play live. Remember, we're doing all of this so that we can do a complete live performance just using the keyboard and my electric mandolin. Okay? That's what we're going to use. I'm going to delete this little demonstration track, and I'm going to delete this one. Turn on the recording. Now let's demonstrate how the click track works. You can see when I'm on this track, I have the option of playing all these drums by myself using the keyboard. Or I can use the drum pads here. what I have to do is hold down the shift drum, and it switches these all these great pad controllers that interact nicely with Ableton. This converts it into drum pad mode, and so on. You can do all sorts of cool things here, all pressure sensitive and so on. But what I'll do is I'm just going to use I like that cowbell, so I'm going to use to set up my click track. Okay, so I go here, I'm going to hit record. Remember, I'm still using the mouse and keyboard here, but when I set up the basic infrastructure, I'm going to switch to keyboard only. Now, because I've set my count in to 1 bar, you're going to hear a couple of metronome clicks, and then it's going to be over to me to record. And I'm doing something very simple. I'm just going to record a couple of bars that I can use later on. Okay, ready? Go. That's good. I'm going to stop it. Keeps playing otherwise. And I only want this to be 2 bars long. Let's turn off this metronome, make that 2 bars long, and let's play it again. Now when I played it, there was a little delay, because let's get rid of this count in delay. And if I click on fold, it shows only the keys that I was actually using. It's a little sloppy, so what I'm going to do is quantize this. I'm going to right click here and click on, first double check the quantize settings. It tries to make everything very accurate to where these beat lines are. Okay, at the moment I've got 2 bars and it's broken down into the quarter notes and eighth notes that you see there. And if I now say right click quantize, it's going to get more accurate. Okay, these beats come out exactly on the line. Let me stop this now. Okay, so that is ready to go. And what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to use that to synchronize all the rest of my tracks. If I'm going into live performance mode, this is what I want to do. Okay, I want to make sure that everything lasts for the right number of beats. This one, I'm going to preset it so that it lasts for 2 measures, 2 bars. Okay, the electric bass, I want to go for 8 bars, as you'll see why in a second. The trumpets, I also want to go for 8. Direct input doesn't matter. It's just going to record whatever I play. Okay, once I hit the record, I'm going to put this permanently in the recording mode so that it'll be ready to go. Now, we're ready for live recording. So what I'm going to do is set my quantization to 2 bars, as we demonstrated in part 2. It gives me enough time, certainly in live performance, to press the buttons and so on. Too small a number and I've got to press buttons too quickly, and too big a number I've got to wait too long. I don't want count in. Count in is very cool. I don't want a metronome and I don't want a count in. They're very cool features, but I find if you're actually trying to do this in a live environment, it's going to mess you up. Okay, I don't want to count in. I just want to go on exactly the beat. Okay, And I do that by keeping track of the spinning clock that we saw in part 2. Okay, so now I've got this whole environment ready to go. I can use the drum pads here. What I have to do is hold down the shift drum, and it switches these all these great pad controllers that interact nicely with Ableton. This converts it into drum pad mode. We want to do everything from the MIDI keyboard controller. Double check, I got track selection at the top, and at the bottom it's in mute mode. 3 button presses on that one. I've got a minus octave for when the bass guitar kicks in.